everybody, welcome back to the Bondi Bait channel. You know, I made some videos showing deep cranking in the Detroit River for early spring walleye. And I've gotten a lot of inquiries about this, so I'm going to do a little more in-depth video here. I'm going to show you what I do. You know, I've been a guide on this river for 29 years, and to stay interested in fishing that long, you got to stay innovative and you got to come up with unique ideas. And you know, I've spent a lot of time down south bass fishing and stuff like that, and I really come to love deep diving crankbaits, like the deepest of the deep. And so I started throwing them in the Detroit River in the current, which is not something you've seen people do. So I put up some videos and people got really interested in it. So I'm going to talk a little more about it. Basically, it works. The best time to do this is before the weeds come up or after they're gone. So early spring or late in the year. I've caught these fish on these big crankbaits from up by Peach Island all the way to Lake Erie. So it works in the entire river. I'm targeting a few things when I'm fishing. Weed-free areas in 15 to 25 foot. And the areas that I'm looking for are going to be in the current. So I'm looking for either flats that are 10 to 15 feet deep, where I'm going to throw the smaller baits, or I'm looking for points where I'm going to be casting across them, or I'm looking for steep drops where I'm casting down it or up it. And so I'm using primarily two baits. I've got the Bill Norman's, this DD22. This thing came out in 1987. This thing has caught so many fish for me. And this is the deep little end, very similar bait, just smaller. So if I'm fishing across flats in 10 to 15 foot, I'm throwing the deep little end. And if I'm fishing down the drop off, so if it's a steeper drop, I'm throwing it down it. I'm using a DD22. If it's got a lot of color in the water, or if it's really windy, I'm going to this big dredger from Berkeley. It's a 25.5 Berkeley dredger. Dives 25 feet. So usually I'm throwing in the stained water, or if it's a little stirred up, I'm throwing the bright colors like this. If it's clear, you know, it can really not be the best technique out here if it's really clear. So if it is clear and you're trying it, you want to go with like the more crystalline type colors, more natural looking colors like that. So there's two sizes of dredgers that I'm using. I'm using the 25 and I'm using the 20. Just like this. They're a little more loud, a little more obnoxious. So if it's cloudier water, I'm going to be throwing these. The standby though is a DD22 and a deep little end. I've been throwing these for years. What you want to do is you want to put triple grip hooks on them if they don't come with them. Look at that. You hook them with that triple grip hook, they stay on there. Look at that shine on that. So I don't go with tons of colors. I use like chartreuse with a blue back or any kind of pearl, things like that. Alright, so the combo that I'm using out here to throw these big crankbaits is a bait cast combo like this. 7 to 7.5 foot bait cast rod, medium to medium heavy. 7.5 foot's better, you can really whip it out there far, that's crucial. I'm using a high quality 6.3 to 1 bait cast reel and 10-pound fluorocarbon. You might find your own favorite brand out there, but I use Berkeley professional grade fluorocarbon. They don't give it to me, I just use it. I buy it like you. Okay, so the scenarios where I'm using these deep divers in the river, I'm always in the current, always. If you're offshore fishing, it still works. Chuck it out there. You got to kind of gauge what the depth is out there. You don't want, if you're in 12 foot, most of the water is in front of you is 12 foot, you don't want to be using the big one. You want to be using the smaller ones. The smaller dredger or the deep little end. I'm sure you can find other baits that work, but these are the ones I use. So if I'm in the river, I'm looking for tapered drops like this. So I want the bait to land in like 7-8 foot, and I want to start immediately quickly retrieving it and get it going. And I want that bait ideally to hover about a foot over the bottom as I go, because the fish, that's when they're going to respond to it the most. Sometimes they'll chase it all the way to the boat and get it right by the boat. Those are the days where it's really working. So I'm either pulling it down a tapered drop, and that's when I'll use the bigger one, because I'm going to be sitting in 25-26 foot, and pulling it down to the deepest portions. Or I'm going to be, if the drop off is too steep, I'm going to be casting behind me and getting it down along the edge of the drop and retrieving it. So at that point, it's all about angles. This technique is all about angles. Angles of your cast, angles of your boat. You want the boat, if you're doing a steep break line, you want to make sure your boat is in the depth that you want that bait to be getting to. So if you're fishing a steep break, you want to be in like 17, 18, 20 feet. Cast straight behind you or straight in front of you, ideally down current and reeling it up current. But get your boat in the depth that you want the bait, chuck it down there, start retrieving it quickly and then super slow. If you're fishing across a point, you have to know through charts and your mapping and previous experience how deep it is up on the point. If you're balling up in the weeds, then it's not going to work. You got to get further out at the tip of the point. So cast it across the point, across the current at that time, and reeling it across the points. And that's a big way of catching them out here. All the points in the river I've caught fish on. If you're fishing on flats, sometimes they're on flats. You're going to see fish in this video where they're fishing on a flat and it's like 15 feet deep, 10, 15 feet deep. You use the smaller baits, the Dredger 20 and the deep little end, and you're pulling it across the flats. Now those fish, before the weeds come up, they're like, it's like clay and rock and this and that. They'll be all over those flats sometimes. You pull that bait across there and you're bumping the bottom just every once in a while, and man, they eat it good. Now, this doesn't always work. They're not always running it down. On the days where you get them to bite right at the boat, that's the days you want to use it. They will follow it from that 20-something foot and follow it and hit right at the boat. Those are the days where it really works. If no one's catching them jigging, it's probably not going to work that great. You want the days where everyone's popping them really good on the jig. So keep an eye out for that. Like I say, it doesn't always work, but it's exciting and it's fun when you catch one doing this. Remember, zing it out there far, get it going quick a little bit on the very beginning of your retrieve, get it down there deep and then slow right down. You'll watch on the video how slow I'm going once it's down there, and that helps dig too. And you want the fish to be able to run it down, so if you're really burning it in, they ain't gonna get it. It's a great technique to try. It's not something that's going to work every day for you, but remember, you got to have the two sizes: the great big baits diving to 18 to 20 foot, and then the shallower ones for any kind of situation where you're on a shallower point or you're on a flat or anything like that. But remember, before the weeds come up and after the weeds leave, this works in the river. Give it a try and let me know how you do. And thanks, and please subscribe.